Oh, Granny.
Very funny, Grandma. Very funny.
It's all right. I got that on there now. Come on, Joseph.
So go back to where you kind of walked away into agnosticism.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I got into high school, and then freshman year, I just got introduced to doing I started smoking weed end of the year, and then I started getting into it just because I had a few friends, close friends I've grown up with that I've been friends with my whole childhood, and just a couple key older brothers really just kind of got us into that.
Bummer.
Yeah, bummer, right? and so then just started doing it more and more, and I always found it super interesting just because when I was a kid, I always would try to stare at one spot and try to make things look different in a way. That you can do that, it's with the lighting and such. And so I was when I actually found something that could actually radically change just the way you perceive, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And also, I just enjoyed doing it, so there was that too. But then, further down the line, I found out about psychedelics. I heard about them, and I was like, this sounds really interesting. I ended up trying it, and it was like nothing I had ever really experienced. It's very just
So that was acid?
That was
LSD?
acid, yeah.
LSD?
First time I did it, yeah. LSD,
Yeah.
and then mushrooms.
Oh.
And then, and then when I actually really started getting into it, I just did it by myself so I could just experience what actually is going on. And I found I had a somewhat higher tolerance for just what was going on. Honestly, looking back, I just think it was just God kind of keeping my mind in check. Well, because it's easy to kind of be really negatively affected by these things.
Okay.
And this is still in high school?
This is in high school, yeah. So I actually would put myself in situations where I really shouldn't have been in them, tripping really hard.
Wow.
I went to, for my senior trip, we all went to Disneyland, and so we had the vice principal, a whole bunch of teachers. And for some reason, I decided that it'd be a good idea to take a whole bunch of mushrooms by myself, and I was just yeah, it could have been really bad, but the point is that the Lord totally had me through that.
Wow.
Yeah, because that I've literally heard about people just doing that and actually freaking out, and you could not graduate and such like that if you do that. So
Is mushrooms more toxic than LSD?
it's better on the body, but it also just depends on how much you take. They're different, just different kind of trips, I guess. But yeah, so I started experimenting. I was like, this is really interesting, and then I got into, and then towards the end of high school, I started realizing that I didn't really believe in Christianity and stuff anymore. I never really stopped believing in God per se, but I just had walked away long enough to where it just was unrecognizable to me. And then.
But somehow you hungered for the supernatural, huh?
Oh yeah.
You were just searching for that.
Yeah, I didn't really know exactly what I was searching for, and then freshman year, I continued doing psychedelics, and I heard that
in college, then?
freshman year in college, yeah, and I heard my friend, for some reason this kind of set something off in me. It's one of my friends said that my other friend Willem, he does psychedelics in a more spiritual way, and I was like, I never thought about that, and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this because I had some, and I started just trying to just get spiritual with it, just do it by myself. I mean, I did by myself previously, but it was more just out of curiosity. And so just that kind of led down a long process of trying psychedelics and just doing different things, and doing more, and then just having different experiences. Had certain out of body experiences. One experience where I had at the end of freshman year was I did this experience.
When you started the GMT?
No. So the DMT was a year after
So
this.
it's DMT?
DMT.
DMT, sorry.
Yeah. And so, but this experience, I did 5 tabs of acid. You're only supposed to do 1. And I was just laying in my room, and I could see myself from the corner of my room as I also looked forward. And then it started getting really bad because I started thinking about death and such like that.
Yeah.
But then the Lord kind of, I think He saved me at that point as well, because it didn't get much worse than that.
Praise God.
Yeah, seriously. And then there's, I also tripped with a few friends, and in this trip, I had one of the friends, he referenced this drug called DMT to me. I'd heard about it somewhat before, and I heard about ayahuasca, which is, it has DMT in it, and
What's that stand for? DMT?
dimethyltryptamine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You say it's 100 times more powerful than acid?
It's just on a whole different level. Like acid and shrooms and any other psychedelic you can get your hands on, the room is still there. DMT, it's gone. and you're in a place you haven't,
Oh, wow.
like, you can't even conceive of. Yeah. And so I heard about this, I heard about this through my friend while tripping with him. He told me about DMT, and I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting.
Whoa.
And so then I researched it and was like, all right, I want to do this. And so I researched and prepped for it for about a year and a half. I learned how to get on the dark web because you can't really, like,
Oh, man.
I know, because you can't get it from just any, like, person. Like, nobody really does this drug, except for people who are, I don't know, too curious for their own good, I guess. Or seeking some, like, shamanic healing, because that's usually what they use it for in shamanic, like, rituals and
So
South
this isn't
America.
common. Like, people don't take DMT.
It's not
like
common.
in college and stuff like that. It's super hard to find.
Yeah, like if I mean, if you wouldn't take it at a party because you just pass out. Like you,
Oh, wow.
you take it and you literally fall asleep. Basically, that's what it looks like. But it's just too intense for someone.
So
to
it's
do at a
literally,
party.
actually, what you're describing, it takes you into a trance.
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically. And you can. It's only lasts between 15 and 20 minutes. But within that time, it's because wherever you go, it's just like the place is just timeless. So it could seem like years or something like that. Even though it's just like 15 to 20 minutes. But at the same time, it's just timeless, so it doesn't really seem like years. It's just, you can't really tell how long it is. But yeah, so I eventually got my hands on it, and I did it with my roommate, and we, because you can't overdose on psychedelics, you can just get really whacked out. And so we did one try and like put like a decent bit into like the pipe that we had. And it didn't work because you had to burn it correctly. And another time without clearing the stuff out before. So another time with the same amount, but also just added on the amount previously. And then didn't work. And so then we waited an hour, each took like a nap, and then put like 4 or 6 times more than we're supposed to on top of the other 2. But he switched to some other smoking things, so I just had like all this in just one thing. And I did it correctly, and so basically it's like I just took way too much than I was actually supposed to. And I also had like 4 years of just like smoking experience before that, so my lungs were like attuned to it. But it sounds so sketchy now.
Oh, good, I'm so glad.
What year in college are you right now?
This
Sophomore?
I'm a senior now, but at that time I was a sophomore.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that was
2 years ago?
that was 2 years ago in April.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. And so yeah, then basically when I actually like breathed it in and it started affecting me, I closed my eyes but I could still see the room around me, and so my eyes were closed but I could still see the room, and then the walls and the ceiling and the floor, everything just kind of like dropped off and like unhinged, and it was just left with this kind of like I can't describe the color really because it was like just a different color. Kind of like a cyan, but it was like concave and sparkling. It's like I don't know. You can't really describe it. A lot of this I can't really describe in accurate ways. Yeah, and so then you go through this thing like that people call like the tunnel, and so it's like just these kind of like waving patterns that kind of morph together that are just like they're geometrical, but like not things that we would see or perceive here. And then you eventually. So for me, I was going through that. I was going to like different rooms and such like that. That's the only way I can really describe them. And then I ended up in this one kind of like bigger area, which looked kind of just like a ball of fire. And there was a bunch of these things called like, they looked like portals or like gyroscopes with like a bunch of different rings, which my friend actually got a prophetic word about over this past summer.
Really?
And I never told him about my trip, and he described these accurately.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
And then so I actually asked, like I put out a question. I was like, "What are these things?" Like I asked, like, "What are these like portal things?" And the response that I got was, and it wasn't with words. It's just kind of like with feeling, but I could tell what it was saying. It was like everything that ever has been, is, or will be is coming from these things, and that was also within my friend's word.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then. Oh, so sorry. Before getting into this place, I happened upon this like gate, and on this gate there's very distinct symbols, but it also was flowing in different colors that I can't really describe. And I like projected like good vibes onto it or something like that, and it kind of just crumbled away. And then and then the whole thing with the portals happened, and then I
Was
kind of
the fire
like,
scary or good?
it was like neutral. like I felt all right there. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel like Baer, as I knew him, wasn't really a thing. So I was just like there. Like
Okay.
so that's why I wasn't really scared. I didn't really have
Yeah.
much to lose, you know.
Okay.
And so then I was kind of like pushed to the top of this thing, but not really. Just kind of transitioned, and I saw the same symbols that I saw on the gate, but they were just 4 of them. They were side by side, and everything was white. And you can't really like close your eyes because it's just like this is your perception. And so these symbols were black but flung with colors, and then also just a white, just everywhere. And then I kind of like broke through that, and there was almost like a ding noise, or like a clapping. I don't really know. It was kind of just like a strange, but it was very like intimate, very like personal, like this is it type of thing.
Whoa.
And then that happened, and I don't really know what I saw after that because very quickly I was like thrown back down. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like thrown back down. I was laying in bed, and I shot up like that, like hands on my knees. My mouth had dropped, and I was looking around the room, just kind of like shaking. And my friend, who was also tripping, he woke up at this time and saw me. And what he saw symbols and paintings and patterns all over my body, and there was black coming out of my mouth. And yeah, it was super, super demonic.
Whoa.
Yeah, but what I saw was, and what I was experiencing was, because I couldn't see my room, but what I saw was it was like my being just itself like shattered into like a bunch of different little pieces, and there were like marbles thrown across like a huge plane, and I could see out of all of them, but I could also see all of them at the same time. So it was like they were all spinning, and I was just seeing it every which way. So it's if you can somewhat try to imagine just like the confusion and terror of like, it felt like I was being ripped apart, and I could see all of it happening without knowing anything to do because I couldn't. That was like my mind as well. Like I couldn't form anything because they were all split apart. And then eventually like pieced back together, and there's a few just like different tidbits there that I saw. It's like at a certain point I could see like, my eyes kind of like rolling 1,000 times backwards. Then eventually I came to, I looked at my roommate. I don't remember what I saw, but I jumped off the bed because it was very scary. And I landed on the floor, and whether my eyes were opened or closed, I could see the whole room, even stuff behind like the bed. So it's like the bed was like right here because I jumped off. I was on the floor, so I could still see the stuff behind that too. It's like X-ray almost, and it was just like different colors flowing and such like that. And then things calmed down enough to where, and I felt like I was like a question was asking me, it's like, do you want to go back in or do you want to stay here? And I was like, I want to stay here because I realized like I realized who I was again, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to be Baer, like I want to stay here. And so then I got up and I left the room, and I was out in our hallway, and it kind of like drilled me again, and I fell like face first. And every single time it hit me, I would make an oming noise, just like naturally.
Oh, wow.
And then I would get up, kind of like come to and fight it again, and then come out and I eventually came out in the middle of the room, and I looked out the window of my apartment. My apartment was formed, but when I looked out the window, I could see just a grid over everything, like over like all of Paris and such like that. And on this grid were the same symbols that I saw before, and out of the grid were buildings that were just being like breathed into existence. Like I kept on saying, everything is just one breath. And so it was literally like it breathed, like more building, and then more building, and then eventually it just kind of all came to be. But then through this process, like any sensation that would touch, like any sensation that I would feel, like it would always start with my fingertips, whether I was touching my leg or just the wind against my fingertips. It would send a vibration, and it felt like my hand was peeling out of my hand. Like my spirit was peeling out of my hand. And so it just kind of felt like I was like dying, like leaving my body. So then I'd fight it, and then I would feel it again, and it would happen again.
So at this point, you're not enjoying it. You're literally...
Oh, I wasn't enjoying really any of it.
When did it start not to be enjoyable?
When I got thrown down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, but even the part getting up to that point, it's like I wouldn't say I necessarily enjoyed it. I was just in it, you know, whether I liked it or not.
Yeah.
But I wasn't necessarily scared because I didn't really know what I could be scared of, you know. And but then this part was obviously just like devastating.
Yeah.
And then eventually came to things settled down. I remember I was just like laying on my carpet, and it felt so nice to actually just feel things again.
Whoa.
And it was just super demonic. I made a comment to my friend. I was like, literally, like, I don't know why just my mind turned towards Jesus, but I was just like, I literally said like, F you, Jesus, if you could do that. If I could do that, then what can you do? It was just like super demonic.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I didn't even realize.
You didn't even know
Like
you said
just
it?
No, like-
blasphemous kind of.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
And yeah, it was crazy. And and at that point, I don't know why my mind would just turn towards that, of all
Yeah.
things,
Yeah,
because
really.
I was agnostic
That's when you know
too.
it's demonic, my goodness.
Yeah.
Seriously, and I was agnostic for like the year and a half prior to that, almost 2 years to that point, and I was like somewhat against Christianity. Like I just didn't think it was right, and so it's just funny that my mind turned towards that because it's just clearly
Right.
demonic,
Totally.
And then so after that, things settled down,
And
and
how long was that whole 15 to 20 minutes?
that was like 20 to 25 minutes.
That sounds like 3 hours.
I know,
No,
right?
it's terrible.
I'm leaving out a lot.
Oh, and you're leaving out a lot.
Oh, you are
Yeah.
leaving out. Oh, okay.
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
goodness.
I mean, I leave out a lot because I can't describe it. It's just
Yeah, I mean it's like
images
a
in my mind.
dream, like there's all these parts. Sometimes you can't describe a dream,
Yeah.
and yeah. So
It's
I
just
think,
like how can you connect it all together?
Yeah.
It just doesn't
Yeah.
really make
Wow.
sense.
Wow.
Yeah, and so then over the next few months, April, May, June, yeah. So this is like either end of March or beginning of April sometime. And over the next few months, like I was back to somewhat normal. I knew that something really gnarly happened to me, but I
But you
just
didn't want
kind
to
of,
take
like,
DMT again? At this point, you're like, I'm done?
I was still curious. I was
Yeah.
like,
Oh, man.
when I came out of that, when I was like, all right, you know how sometimes you come out of a really rough season and you look back and you're like, I'm all right now. Like that couldn't have been that bad,
Yeah.
oh man.
And also too, with just like the amount of pride that I had, I was like, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And so then, yeah, I didn't end up doing it again, thank God. That would not have been good for mental health. But then, so the next few months, I just went along. I actually started dating some girl, and then I went to my internship down in Bordeaux, and I was living in kind of like seclusion, like 40 minutes away from the nearest city. But there's a town like 25 minutes away, but I didn't have a car. And so I would just like go with my boss to work and then come back, and yeah, just have a lot of time thinking and reading and just like processing.
And
And
this
I-
boss, he's the Christian guy, right?
Yeah, he's a Christian guy.
Yeah.
And interning
Awesome
for what?
Christian
What was
family.
this intern
For a vineyard and chateau real estate company.
for? Okay.
Yeah. So I was living on like a form of a chateau,
Okay.
like in south of France.
Sounds nice.
It was pretty fun. Yeah. If this whole thing didn't happen, I
Yeah.
would have had the best time ever.
Oh, man.
But so I realized just while I was there, because I had so much time to process, and I already knew it too after the DMT trip. I was like, I know that I just went through something that I have to figure out, and then I have to really flesh out and understand, because I knew that it was traumatic.
Yeah.
Even though I still was curious in doing it again. And I actually had a tab of acid with me that I was planning on taking
Oh,
after
man.
my internship was over.
Oh man.
Luckily, I mean, I'll get to it later. But I just started delving into it. I was thinking about it a lot, and I was very new agey at the time too. So I was like thinking about just a whole bunch of stuff, and I was into Kundalini meditation as well, like awakening the snake, the
Yeah.
serpent at the base
Yep.
of the spine.
I've helped people deliver them from that spirit.
It's gnarly.
Yeah.
They
Wait.
say that once you awaken it, you can't stop it, and it takes control of you. And
Yes.
so that was totally a part of my next experience.
I don't want to rewind, but when you like, what got you into wanting the New Age kind of supernatural? Like
It was just like I was hungry for
something new,
spirituality, and that was like the first thing that really presented itself.
Something,
Because New Ageism, it's not like I ascribed myself. I was not like, all right, I'm a New Ageist. You know?
Right.
It's just you fall into just New Ageism, which is basically anything under the sun that's not doesn't have context within religion. It's just different parts of religion pieced together in whatever
Very
form you see
eclectic.
fit.
And I
Yeah.
think
Grabbing here.
I think
Yeah.
because I think you didn't grow up. The Christianity you grew up wasn't about encounters and prophetic and healing and
Yeah.
right where yours was.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
from the time they were 4 and 6, it was, they spoke in tongues at
Yeah,
4 and 6.
supernatural encounters, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
encounters, drunk in the spirit, you know, at 10 and
Yeah, I
you know.
didn't know that existed. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I knew about the stuff that would happen in the Bible. I didn't really know about the Pentecost. Like,
Yeah.
I just heard the normal kind of conservative Sunday school stuff growing up, and so I was like,
Right.
I didn't know you could be spiritual within the Christian sphere.
Right.
So
But it
didn't
wasn't
really
peer
make sense to
pressure
me.
for you, like through high school and then college. It was like you wanted this. You wanted.
The majority, actually, all of my drug experiences, except for probably the weed, was self-sought out because I was just curious.
Interesting.
Um,
so the
like
DMT is just like something so rare you want to find it, kind of thing.
Yeah, like that's why I had to learn how to get in the dark web. Like nobody else was going to get it for me. I had to learn how to like encrypt.
So
and
that was
get
interesting
on
too,
there.
huh?
Yeah, I was super curious, and same with like the other psychedelics. I would do them by myself to experience them.
Yeah. Oh.
And like even like cocaine, I did it by myself the first time just to see what it was like. You know.
Wow.
Luckily, I don't really have a super addictive personality, so I don't like get addicted
Oh,
to any
that's
of this
great.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. Otherwise, that would have been really bad. Except for
Yeah.
except for weed, I definitely was addicted to that for a few years. But so continuing on, I was in the chateau just kind of like thinking about this stuff, and I actually had a conversation with this girl that I really liked, and we had decided to be friends because she wasn't coming back the next semester because she's going on a semester abroad. But I was like super into her, and she told me through a FaceTime conversation, like, you know, I'm just not sure about you yet. And then so that was just like one other domino, but also too, I was at work one day, and I was like, just didn't feel right. I felt like there's something in me that just wasn't supposed to be there. Because I've never really been a super angry individual, and then I would just start getting angry for absolutely no reason. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. There's something off, you know? And so then I decided to do a fast. So I just fasted for 24 hours, just drank water. And then I had a meal, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to do a 3-day dry fast, not eat or drink anything for 3 days.
Wow.
For what, to clear your head, kind of thing.
To just clear whatever was in me. I didn't, and the funny thing too is that I did 3 days because Jesus did 3 days and he came out of it, you know? And so it was like going into death, coming back out. And so I did that, not realizing the significance of
Oh
it.
my
And the Lord was
goodness.
just like, this is our
He's
chance.
so good, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so, yeah, so I did that for 3 days. It wasn't very fun.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
No food, no water, nothing. right?
Yeah. And I didn't shower or anything. The only intake of or absorption of water that I had was brushing my teeth. Cause I'm not gonna just not brush my teeth. It's grimy, you know. I gotta go to work. Like.
Oh my goodness.
And so, at the end of that, I also went full vegan, and I didn't ease myself into that either. I was in a secluded area with not many friends, and I just cut a whole bunch of things off that, like, so basically it's just like, this is just one other reason about what led me into this, because I was just so in a place of just like, I don't know, utter,
Despair.
not despair, just,
Desperation?
no, like, just utter, like different, like, it was just very different, because I did so many things, just changed my lifestyle so much, and so radically within just a few days, that, because I, not only did I go vegan, but I was also raw vegan for a couple of days. So right when I finished my fast, it was on a Thursday, and then went throughout Thursday, just was eating raw, and then the next day continued doing that. Then that night, on a Friday night, I woke up and I had a dream. Well, I had a dream, just very DMT-like, but it was like 2-dimensional instead of like whatever dimensional the DMT thing is, which is like definitely more than 3. And I, at the end of that, and this is, I don't think this is the Lord, but it's just like a new agey thing, you know, everything is love, everything is just love, but it could have been. I mean, God is love, you know, so I don't really know, I don't think about that too often. I often leave that out of the story just because I don't think it's super significant.
But you heard a voice say that?
Yeah, I heard a voice say that at the end of my dream, everything is love, everything is just love, and then I woke up, and I instantly started feeling like slipping out of my body again.
Oh man.
And I remember just like and I hadn't been smoking weed or doing anything like that. I mean, I got drunk a couple times, but like just throughout the course
You're
of this
thinking.
experience, you know. And that's
Why
about. Yeah. I mean, if my boss and his wife were leaving for the week, I don't. What else am I gonna do?
Right, really.
Yeah, that was my mindset at the time. I was like, all right, they have a whole bunch of wine here.
And this is still sophomore year.
This is end of sophomore year summer
Okay.
when I was doing the internship. This is like June.
So
Yeah.
And your dad set this internship up somehow? Through
Yeah.
Connection? Okay.
So I actually had visited them like a year previously with my parents, and like we got acquainted and such like that. And then
Did your dad know you're doing any of this stuff?
I shared with him a little bit about my psychedelic usage. I didn't tell him everything, and his response was, it's my job as your dad to worry. But he knew that like, I mean, if I'm like an entire constant away, it's not much you can really do about it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I woke up from this dream and just felt that, and just like the terror like just hit back in full force, just because like if you ever experience like something that's like that fearful, it's like I remember just saying in my head, I was like, stop, like don't, like just like really like trying to not like make it not happen, because I knew that it was, and it was just like falling slowly. It was basically, it's like you're falling off a cliff and you're just like really climbing, you know. And then it just kind of like hit full force, and it felt like my mind was splitting and everything was like shattered again, and I had a high pitched ringing in my ears. I looked around the room, and everything that I saw would smear across my vision, so I could like hardly see straight.
So it's like you're on DMT again.
Exactly. I re-experienced the thing, but without the intense hallucinations, but I re-experienced and without seeing like the grid, but I re-experienced the exact sensations and certain hallucinations
Without
that I had.
smoking anything,
Yeah, it was like I was caught in between. I was talking to you about that. It was like I was caught in between like this world and wherever that world was, you know? And it was like I was being pinched in a way. So oftentimes, I mean, now I think about it, that's just kind of like a schizophrenic experience. It's like they're being pinched between both sides, you know?
Do you think the people that made Stranger Things were motivated by DMT? Because you know how they slip? Have you ever seen the episodes where people slip between
I wouldn't be
two realms?
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's totally like that.
I know that the people...
Like they're there and then all of a sudden, wait, everything's just changed and I'm in something that looks similar. I mean, honestly.
Maybe.
Like I wouldn't, when you're describing it, I'm picturing...
Or like Elle, when she goes into the dark.
Yeah, when she goes into that space and can
It's very interesting.
Anyway.
The DMT looks very different, but I think that maybe there could have been some, like, something. I mean, if you've ever seen Rick and Morty, which is kind of a horrible show, it's funny, but it's definitely horrible. And if you've ever seen that show, they definitely have taken DMT. There's just certain stuff in there. It's just like, wow, that's pretty spot on. Even like Adventure Time, which is a kid's show, it's like there's stuff in there. I'm just like, that's totally DMT.
It's on like Cartoon Network. That's crazy.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Like there's one
I thought
episode.
they were just kids shows. Like Rick and Morty, I've heard like guys like talk about it and they're funny and whatever. But
Yeah, there's definitely stuff in there that's like totally DMT. It's not like prevalent throughout it, but like there's certain episodes where I'm just like, yeah, that's pretty spot on.
So when
you
you
know?
were tripping
Oh
at this
my
time,
goodness.
didn't you reach out to the guy, the mentor, the boss?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so basically, yeah, it was just complete terror. I didn't know what to do. I was trying to feel things, and I couldn't I couldn't feel things with my hands because it felt like my spirit was just like splitting out of my hand. So then I made my way. I felt my way basically like downstairs. I could see somewhat still, so I didn't have to like just feel, but it was just very disorienting.
Cannot imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, it wasn't very fun.
Hell.
Yeah, seriously, it was like I was getting a taste of it, you know.
Yeah.
I think it was the Lord's way of showing. I'll get to that, but I think that it was the Lord's way of showing me. It's like this is what life is like when I'm not there, you know. And the next day was even more so. And so I went downstairs. I spoke. I was like Michael, like I need help. Like something's happening. And I remember I was just so whacked out. I said one of the things I said to him was,
He's British?
He's English, yeah.
English, okay.
And so one of the things I said to him was, I feel like if I just let go, I'll know what life is really like, you know? Because that was the lie that was being put in my head, is like that side was where we came from, you know? And so if I did let go, obviously that's what like Emmy would want. It's like I let go and then just my control's gone, you know? But I was fighting it because I knew I just felt how horrible it was. And so it was also a mixture of like the Kundalini thing, and I had that running through my head. I was like, it's happening, but this is horrible. I don't want it, you know? But basically the three main thoughts that were going through my head was, first off, that I'm dying. And the second off was that I died in the car crash I got in 2 years previously, because I hit a tree with my friend going 60, and I got one scratch, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, right? And we impacted on my side too.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
really crazy. So the Lord's definitely been over that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then that was my second thought. I was like, I died in that, and I'm living out what my life would have been like, but it's like the trial is over, you know, and now I'm going back. And then the third thought, which is the most terrifying by far, was that everything that I had experienced and everything that I am experiencing is entirely fake and none of it's real, and that I was going back to where I came from, which is a horrifying place I didn't want to go to. And so it's just like the enemy's attempt at taking away all meaning, you know?
Yeah.
And so Michael, he kind of calmed me down after like I almost like jumped out the window. His first floor, so it wouldn't have been bad. I didn't know what to do,
Yeah.
you know? And because I looked like a schizophrenic. I had my hands in my hair. I was touching pillows. I was like, I don't know. I can't feel anything, you know? And so he read the Bible to me, read a few verses. I don't remember what he read, and he prayed with me, and it calmed down. It stopped, and I had some sense of peace, except I still was just like, what just happened? Because when it happened on the DMT, it's easy because you can just blame it on the drug, you know?
Right.
But then if it's totally sober, I'm just like, well, I don't know how to process this,
No way.
you know?
Yeah, that's so freaky.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
you know, back in the 60s and early 70s, when this all started, these psychedelics, people would take it, and then they would not take it for a while, and they'd have flashbacks.
Yeah.
Oh.
And was that with you? You get like a flashback?
Definitely, like it's totally like a PTSD type of episode. I think there's just so many different combinations, like the Kundalini, just spiritual stuff I let in that I shouldn't have, the dry fast, like just the trauma in general, and so there's just a whole bunch of different stuff that just combined into one. And so I have a hard time attributing it to any one thing, but that's definitely a part of it, because this stuff was still in my system, and that's actually going to be a part of the story in a little bit. And so I was able to go back to sleep after he prayed with me, read some verses to me, and I slept like 3 hours, woke up the next day, and the next day was, it wasn't as completely horrifying as that experience, because that was just like a lot, but it was still terribly horrifying because it was in long duration.
So it kept going.
It kept going, yeah. But not in the same, like, not to the same intensity or degree, but it was also different, because remember that third thought that I had where it's like everything was fake?
Mm-hmm.
That's what everything looked like the next day. Like everything, I could see everything the way that it was. It was just the colors were a bit different, and it looked like it was like a computer program in a way. And like literally I would touch certain things, I would just feel like, in one instance I touched a tree, and instead of feeling like the bark, I would just feel the vibration, and it's like my hand would just like pass through it in a way. It's like touching it with like a hand that you let go to sleep. It's like touching it like that, you know? And so then I went downstairs after I woke up, and I was horrified at the thoughts inside my head, because they were my thoughts, but I was like, I don't even know what those are. I don't know who this is. I don't know what this body is. I could hardly look at myself in the mirror, because I was like, it's just so bizarre and strange to me. It was like I just realized, like, when we all kind of know we don't really know exactly what all this is, you know? But it's like I got just drilled with that understanding in a very demonic way. I was just like, I don't know where I am. I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on. And this is all that I know, but it's just memories. And so I just was like, I don't know what's going on right now.
So at this point, did you know who Satan was and the term demonic and all that, or have you no?
I mean, I know it from when I was a kid, but I couldn't like attribute it to that. I couldn't trust anything that I was thinking, hearing, or that I had learned in the past, because I was like, the sky and the ground and the walls and my face and my thoughts were entirely unreal to me. And so then Michael, I was walking into the kitchen. He handed me a Bible, and he was like, "You should probably repent." And I was like,
Amen.
I was like, heck, man, I'll try anything, you know? Because I was just like terrified. I took the Bible outside, and they have an awesome dog named Hefe. It's the best dog ever. It's like a big white Shepherd Pyrenees dog, or I think that's what they're called, right? Shepherd Pyrenees, something like that.
The Pyrenees, I know those.
They're gorgeous, and just a lot of hair to like grab onto. And so I went outside, was on the hammock, and I opened up the Bible to just a random place, and it opened up to Philippians. Unfortunately, I don't remember the exact verse that I read, and I've gone through Philippians a couple times before, and I don't remember what spoke to me, because I read something, and it's just like, I don't even know if it was really the words or just the Lord just interceding and just coming in right there. Maybe that's why I don't remember the verse, but just like amidst the most terror I ever had in my life, it was the most joy. I was like on the ground,
Whoa.
just like laughing.
No way.
Right after you read it?
Right after I read it.
The verse?
Oh
Yeah.
my
Wow.
goodness.
It was crazy. I was literally like crying to this dog's fur. Like I was just like, I love you so much, Hefe. And because it was like, I mean,
Was it that verse, "Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials"?
I couldn't tell you.
The
I just
testing of your faith produces endurance. Because when you just said the joy, I just got there.
But isn't that
maybe.
James?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's James.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, whatever it was the power of the words.
That's-
Yeah,
I was thinking,
yeah.
I can do all things through Christ who
Yeah.
strengthens me. Is First Corinthians.
Philippians, yeah.
It may have been that one. I don't remember, and I've gone through the
Oh,
whole
that's
thing.
so
I just don't
awesome.
remember it. Yeah, it was crazy, and I was just like, I felt so held, and
Wow.
I like looked back at times where I literally had conversations with the Lord when I was agnostic, and I was like,
Interesting.
it was like the veil has been taken off my eyes. I'm just like, why did I run away from you for so long? You know,
Wow.
it was like, Dad, thanks for coming. You know. It was super, super sweet, and basically he was just like I'm here with you in this, you know. I'm going to help you through it. He couldn't take it away, but he's going to help me through it. And so I had that just super joyous experience, and he just filled my heart.
Oh
and,
my goodness.
And
like
you knew it was Jesus, because obviously the verse, and you felt it was Jesus coming inside you.
So I knew that it was the Father. I couldn't quite come to, just because of my belief in the past few years, I couldn't quite come to saying like that's Jesus.
Okay.
You know? But I knew that it was God, and I knew that it was Jesus. I don't think I was at the point to really just say that it is. But I knew that it was the God that I had been experiencing since I was a kid.
Oh,
You know?
wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was
That's
crazy.
so cool.
And so then, just throughout the rest of the day, just kind of like trying not to freak out, and because I still saw everything the same, but I knew that I just had that experience. And so that experience was amazing, but at the same time, it was like I already had so much to process, and I was
Yeah.
like, what is going on right now? You know, but at least now I know that there's this thing here with me, even though I don't
Right.
totally know what it is. And so I called my parents. I told them everything. I told them like my
Oh, man.
whole history of drug usage and everything
Whoa.
like that.
But their reaction was overall what?
They're just worried about me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I bet.
they love me, and so they're just like, I
Oh.
told them they could see the fear that I had, and so they were just like, you know, they were super not supportive in what I've done, but they were like, we want to help you through this, and they're an entire continent away, so I can't imagine the worry that they had, you know. And so my mom, she was like, when I get scared, I listen to worship music and I sing along, and then Michael, he was like, when I get scared, I hold a Bible to my chest. And when I go to sleep. And so that night, I got a Bible, held it to my chest.
That's so,
So-
cute.
Yeah.
You're like, I'll do anything.
Seriously,
right?
I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm going to try everything. This seems to be working out thus far.
Right.
The prayer, the verses last night, that worked. Like, and then the verse
Wow.
today, that worked. So I'm going to keep on going with this. My mom was like, you should listen to Fernando Ortega. So I was like, all right, I'll listen to Fernando. And whether I heard some of his songs when I was a kid or not, like, I just somehow the words just came, you know? I think Lord just kind of like put them there. And so literally I was listening to these songs. I downloaded a few just over and over and over, like Give Me Jesus and like a few other
Wow.
ones. And just knew the words and just was singing along.
Oh my
And
goodness.
as I was doing this, and it was just me and myself in my room, and because I don't think Michael really knew the extent of the fear that I had and what was going on. I mean, he definitely saw me have that episode the night before, but I mean, it's not like he's just going to sit up in my room with me all night, you know?
Yeah.
He's got a job, he's got stuff to do. And so I was in there, and then I started just like throwing up this like energy, and every time I threw up like a little bit, and it wasn't like solid. I was just like, it was coming out of me, you know. And every
Whoa.
single time. So keep in mind, I took DMT 3 months before this. I hadn't tasted it since. Every single time I ejected some out, I would taste the same exact smoke that I
Oh
breathed
my.
in 3 months ago. Yeah. And so it was just being
Whoa.
like cast out of me. And
Oh,
I could almost
man.
see it like sparkling in the air.
Like a self-deliverance.
Yeah.
Basically.
Wow.
And then it was a little bit more, and then it was like a lot, and then, and I was terrified, but at the same time, I was like, amidst it, I just had the biggest smile on my
Oh
face,
my
because I
goodness.
felt like I was being hugged, you know, like I knew that I was covered and I was taken care of, but I just knew that it was something like I had to go through, and so it was terrifying. and like just tears like streaming down my face, and it was amazing. And then the rest of the summer, basically, so the next weekend after that I blazed because I was like, I still wasn't able to process everything.
That's terrible.
And so the next weekend after that I went over to Biarritz and hung out with my friend Luis, and I blazed, and that was the last weekend I ever blazed.
And I don't even know what blaze means.
Like
Smoked
smoke weed.
weed, right?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, smoke weed.
Okay.
And so, sorry.
That's okay. I know some terminology, but not.
Yeah.
Some of these started just flying right over my head.
Yeah. And so then I got back to Paris. The internship ended, and also too, after I had that deliverance, the next night there just happened to be a worship night that my boss knew of, and so I went.
Awesome.
And I was like, I just felt like I was right back at home. Like my hands were in there, and just
No
like,
way!
this is awesome. It was all in
That's so-
French too. I didn't totally know what everything meant, but I was just like, I'm loving it. You know, it's so good.
Wow.
And then so I knew that I was like back, but I didn't know what being back meant because I was so against it for a while. And so then I got back to Paris, and I was thinking, it's like, should I blaze? Should I not blaze? Like, would it help me? Like, or would it not? And Michael and my parents were just like, you should just not. Like, don't do it. You know.
What
And
about drinking? That
What?
stuff. Did drinking, like getting drunk and all that too, stop or no?
eventually, yeah, I'll get there though.
Okay.
And so
I'm jumping ahead.
yeah, and so.
Because people are going to start coming
Yeah,
now.
it's like
Oh,
7
yeah?
minutes. Yeah.
Okay, well I'm almost done. So and so I got back to Paris, and I went to pick up some weed with my friend Andre, and we went back, and he rolled up a J, and he passed it to me, and he was like, and I had this dialogue in my head, I was like, if I say yes, I'll continue doing it. If I say no, I'm done. And so I said no, and I literally haven't done it ever since.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was super great.
Wow.
And I literally was high for 4 years straight before that. Like I couldn't get free from it. And I had even tried. Yeah, it was just like instantly. What?
How'd you get through college and all that?
You could do college high.
He seems really,
Obviously.
Baer seems really smart. You got straight A's in college where you were?
No. I didn't care about school. I did horrible. But I'm doing good now.
Oh, I'm like, this guy's so smart.
Jesus helps.
Were you failing classes and stuff? Or
No, I never failed any class.
okay.
I would always just do the bare minimum because I didn't find it worth it. So
Yeah.
I would learn. I enjoyed learning. I always have. I just didn't. Grades to me were just a bogus thing. I was just like, this is kind of dumb.
But
Yeah,
you're philosophy major, right?
philosophy and psychology.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like grades, right?
Yeah, I was like, what are those? And so then the summer continued. I eventually, instead of going to 2 other like workaways I was planning on doing, one in France, one in Spain, I just talked to my parents. I was like, I'm just going to come home. And so then I went home, and
Home here?
Home here, yeah.
Okay.
And I was still smoking cigarettes. I never really got like addicted to cigarettes, but I smoked them because I enjoyed smoking things, and I wasn't smoking weed anymore. And
Yeah.
so I was up doing that at the top of the world in Newport Coast with a few
Yeah.
friends. And
Time frame last summer? Was this last?
this was not this past one, but the one before
Okay.
that. Yeah. And so then I drove my friend home, and like I didn't smoke. I smoked a cigarette up there, put it out, and we didn't smoke in the car or anything. And I dropped him off, got home, windows down the whole way to breathe everything out. I woke up in the middle of the night, had a similar sensation of like splittingness, and
Oh, no.
that happened just all throughout the summer.
Okay.
Like I would just wake up and it would happen,
Sucks.
and yeah, it was not fun. I had horrible sleep. It would always happen around the same times too, between 2 and like 4:30.
Interesting.
Yeah, usually at 3:30 actually, almost every night. And so I woke up at that time, and I was like, what's going on? Because whenever that happened, it's like there's something that I had to figure out, or I would just get into the Word, and that would always put me to sleep. So it was super cool. It's like it is the sword of the Spirit, you know. So and I didn't really realize the
Amazing.
power of it at the time. It's
Yeah.
just what comforted me, and so I would do that and fall asleep instantly and sleep the rest of the night. I wouldn't always sleep the rest of the night. Sometimes I'd have to get up and read it again.
Okay.
But that being said, I woke up and I looked next to my pillow, and there's a ash in the form of a cigarette, and I was like, how in the heck? Like I smoked a cigarette like miles away, and
You put it out there, yeah.
I put it out there, and I drove home with the windows down. I was like, all right, like God, I'll stop. And so then I stopped. I haven't smoked one since.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then
Whoa.
later in the summer, I would go up to SB Santa Barbara, like Isla Vista, because I have a friend who lives up there. And I would just get like really hammered up there, and then the third time going up there at the end of the summer, I woke up the next day. I was a bit hungover, and once the hangover cleared, everything looked like it did on that day where everything looked fake, and I was like,
Oh, no.
this is not
Oh
fun.
no!
I don't want to
You're
be
like,
here.
nothing is working.
Yeah,
I'm
this is like,
working.
I don't want to be here.
Oh man!
And I was like, all right. And so we finished eating like breakfast. We went out for breakfast, and the whole time I was like, because when you're in that state, it's like everything not only looks fake, but it feels fake. Like I didn't have an appetite, but I ate, and I couldn't taste things really. It was just like, you know, like Pirates of the Caribbean when they have that curse and Curse of Black Pearl. It's like that. It's just like you eat it, and it's not enjoyable. And it's just food. And so then hello, cutie. And then we went back to my friend's place, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna take a nap. Like maybe that'll help me. I went up and I was staying in his roommate's loft bed because he's gone for the summer, and I just started hallucinating. And I was like, I don't like this isn't very fun. And I tried like because I didn't have my Bible with me, so I tried looking at Bible verses on my phone, and like this never happens to me still, but it was just like ads. I couldn't get to it. I was like,
come on,
like, are you serious right now? Yeah. And I was like, what the heck? And so I called my parents. I'm like, I think I'm just gonna go home. Like I'm gonna leave this place. And I mean, Isla Vista has a spirit, you know, a super gnarly spirit.
Part
and
of the spirit, right, or something like that.
Well, yeah, and just other stuff,
Everything,
you know.
yeah.
Jesus Burger's they're doing a work there. Do you know Jesus
Yes,
Burger?
yes,
Yeah, they've been doing
awesome.
awesome work
Wow.
there. And so then I was like, all right, I've just got to leave. So I told my friends, and they kind of sensed something was up. And I was like, I have to head out. I have to leave. So then I left, and right as I exited SB, just like drilled by that same joy, like
Wow,
weeping.
really?
And I haven't gotten drunk since then. You know, like literally, like I haven't had just like no desire. And
Wow.
then over the coming semester, I was never addicted to coffee, but I'd stopped drinking coffee. I don't think it's like a bad thing, but it's just because it was very anxiety-inducing for me.
Yeah.
But and then so that was when I stopped drinking. That was August, not this past August, but the year before that. And then ever since then, it's just been cleaning out, and then now it's kind of like coming out to something new. You know, I feel like I've been cleaned out. You know.
Wow.
So you kept growing in God since the last time you got drunk after that?
I mean, I started growing in God ever since I got saved.
Yeah, but
you know?
then, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's basically it, and there's been stuff along the way, you know, since then. But yeah, craziness.
You're so lucky or blessed, or whatever we want to say it, that you don't have that super addictive personality,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like you give things up. Obviously, it's God.
But he said he couldn't ever give up pot for 4 years, and then
Yeah.
it was totally God that you could.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
the smoking, you know, you said you didn't get addicted to that. the
Yeah, that was
drinking.
more off and
Are you
on.
still in school now, or?
Yeah, I have one semester left.
So then did your friends change? Because you had acid friends that got drunk with you. Like, did you change friend groups?
I was like my only acid friend. I was like my
Oh
only.
That's my only.
So, like, with other friends, did it change at all? Like, what?
Totally. I am nowhere near as close to all of my friends in my university because I'm basically the only Christian that I'm. I mean,
Your
there's a few.
parents
There's
are coming. Did you know that?
yeah.
I
Are you
didn't
still
know
psychology
that.
and philosophy major?
Coming
Still
tonight?
psychology and
Yes.
Where are you
philosophy.
going?
The American University of Paris.
That's gonna be
You're not going to
interesting.
school here.
Oh no, not here. No, out in
You in
Paris.
France.
Oh, you're
And
going
then
back to Paris now?
Yeah.
Oh, you're just here for Christmas?
I'm just here for Christmas. Yeah.
Oh.
So I've been there the past 3.5 years, and that's where all this stuff transpired.
Yeah.
Some of it in Bordeaux.
That was one of the most interesting stories I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of stories, crazy things. That's one of the most interesting stories I've ever heard.
Yeah,
It's
beautiful.
amazing. What a testimony, huh?
It's
No kidding.
It proves God's real too. What you've been through, seriously.
Yeah.
That is
Crazy.
I just had a bunch of stuff from those guys. The bottom book is The Facade by Michael Heiser, the guy who wrote The Unseen Realm. So
Okay.
you just take those things. Just they're
Awesome.
yours.
Okay.
I like
That's
how to
Ben.
process that huge story. That's
Yeah.
wow. That's
Well, I
amazing.
got it recorded now, so.
That's amazing.